Hi there guys, my name is Stuart from Marshall Music, and tonight on Stu Chats With, I have with me a wonderful drummer by the name of Sonnet La Grange. Sonnet.
Hello.
Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for giving up your very precious time to chat with us. We really, really appreciate it.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you got a cool car. I love your car.
Thank you.
It's cool. It's very cool.
It is cool, and not as cool as my old car.
Not as cool as your old car, but it's a cool car.
It is.
It's very cool.
And it's red.
And it's red.
I know.
Was your old car red?
No.
No, okay.
Just cream and black.
Okay.
But I had like a thing this year where I decided that red was going to be one of my new sort of like power colors.
Okay.
Because red is for
And
passion.
you're not wearing any?
No, due to, I think overeating on tour and stuff.
Who are you on tour with now?
So, most weekends we tour with Martin Beste.
Yep.
So I play for Martin. And,
Yep.
we often drive very far, long hours in the car, away for 2-3 days sometimes at a time. And not always time to pack a little lunch or something healthy on the way. So we always tend to munch on either what given to us when we arrive there, because, most of the people that are hosting these events are very generous, and they're very generous with their food as well, and it's often delicious. And then instead of just having one helping, you have two. So the black is here just
to slim you down a bit.
Just to help, visual aiding until I can get back into running and back into the gym, or until it starts having an effect again.
You're lucky you don't really have a problem. You're lucky.
I think you will.
You're lucky.
I suppose.
Now, I was just speaking off camera. Tell us about how you got your name, your first name, Sonnet.
All right, so...
which most people think is Sonnet or
Sune.
Or Sune, but it's Sonnet. And tell us how you got the name, which I think is so cool.
That's okay. So my dad is English and my mom is Afrikaans. And so what happens in normal sort of like Afrikaans, English homes is that you would get a traditional family name. So it was a throw up at that point between Josephine Frederica and Alice Catherine were the two choices. The third in line was Maria Magdalena. And then and then my dad decided that he wasn't going to torture his one and only daughter with such a fate. And he was and still is an avid Shakespeare lover, and so he decided to call me after his favorite sonnet, and that is Sonnet 116. So I'm named after that sonnet, which happens to be, it turns out, about the epitome of love, or epitome of loving someone. We have yet to find that in our lifetime, but at least I carry the name, the meaning. So. And
your second name is 167.
116, no. In Shakespearean terms, you would say 116, but
116,
I don't know, but it just starts getting strange. It just starts getting strange.
Tell us about how you got into music. What was it? Did you have music, and you've come from a theatrical background as well? Tell us about your upbringing.
All right, so I've got a musical family. So mom is an opera singer.
Wow, okay.
Although my dad was a diplomat, he did love the guitar and played a bit of guitar. My brother is also a very well-known vocalist with a fantastic voice. And I was just sort of like the one at the bottom. I didn't really know what happened, but when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I saw Flash Dance as a little thing, and I just sort of started mimicking the television. And so my mom decided that she thought I had a talent for dancing, and off I went to ballet school, and then I danced right up until after I matriculated. So I danced professionally.
Ballet?
Yes.
Ballet.
So I did ballet. I danced in Cuba for a year, and then after having danced in Cuba, I decided that I had gotten a bit bored with ballet. And then on holiday, one of the other ballerinas that was with me in the company was Canadian. And so she said to me, "Sonnet, have you ever been to Canada?" And I went, "No." She said, "Well, come on holiday with me." We stay in Toronto, so we hopped on the plane, went that side, and trying to keep fit in between, in between holiday and going back. We went to some studios that had open classes, and I walked in, did my ballet class, and as I walked out, I saw these girls in sneakers and like cut pants and caps, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? And then those girls moved in and did some stuff that I had never seen in my life before, and it happened to be an open hip-hop class. And then so I started walking around, started asking a lot of questions, and I was like, what is this place? And they said, oh, well, we are a musical theatre college. And I was like, wow, okay. Now, I'd done tap, I had done modern, I'd done some jazz, but this stuff I'd never seen before. This was really, hitting it out the park for me, and it really just piqued a nerve. And so anyway, so I decided to go audition, and they allowed me to audition. I got into the college, and then I spent another year in Canada, and I started training musical theatre, and then I hurt my back, but badly. And and then that's sort of like the first that I started some real proper singing training. I'd always just sung with my brother at home or in the shower or singing in the car as anyone else would do. Because I thought it was always clear that I was always just going to be the dancer and everyone else was just going to be the musical people. That's literally how I had it mapped out in my mind. Anyway, so I really hurt my back pretty badly, so I had to come home. And then during a break that I'd here, I decided, I was watching my brother's band. So my brother had a band, and he'd always mainly been performing as like a two-piece guitar and vocals and some tracks or whatever. And they'd gotten themselves a drummer, and so for the first time I went and I, watched him perform that way. And then I remember sitting there watching this guy behind the drum kit, and I was like, what the heck is this oak doing? And and I'd go to rehearsals just out of pure curiosity, and I used to go stand behind him to now go and see. Now, as a dancer, you can pretty much, I suppose, try and figure out the moves, because that's what we used to.
And you can appreciate it,
we could, and no matter how much I watched him, I could not make sense out of anything that was happening out there. Things were happening way too fast, too quickly, and it was just arms and sticks flailing and whatever. And so during one of my break, I thought to myself, hey, you know what, out of curiosity, I want to go take some drum lessons, even if it's just to understand what it's doing. I mean, I played a bit of piano, my mom taught me, but I sang a bit, I had 2 or 3 guitar lessons in my life, so I could strum, a few chords here or there. And a friend of mine asked a friend of mine, and I said, so can you teach me how to play? And he said, well, no, I'm sorry, I don't teach. And I was like, but where does one, now coming back to South Africa, I didn't even realize at that time in South Africa that we actually had proper music teachers. It just seemed to me, knowing, because my brother was in bands and speaking to a lot of band members, that people just grew up playing an instrument, listening to stuff and figuring it out. Maybe books, because there was no YouTube, no Google.
Yeah, that's where it was in the 80s and 90s.
So, I mean, I knew that you would have guitar teachers, but drummers never heard of such a thing. You know what I mean? I just don't know how they work the stuff out. Anyway, so they eventually said, no, well, they are teachers. And I was like, really? Well, can I have a number, please? And so then he gave me the number of a gentleman by the name of Ian Dixon. And I traveled from Pretoria to Johannesburg every Wednesday afternoon to go have my 1-hour drum lesson. And I had my first experience of, so I want to go buy drumsticks in what size? And he said 7As. And I was like, 7A, like such a random thing. Like, what is this, And so the whole experience for me is still very vivid, you know what I mean? And every time I have a student now, it's when they ask me about sticks or ask me about gear, I still have a flashback, and I understand that the complete ignorance that comes with it. But it's such an exciting journey where it starts. Anyway, and so I went to Ian Dixon. I had about 12 lessons. We went for about 3 months. And I just started off, and then I begged my dad for a drum kit, and I was like, dude, I can't practice without a kit. Although, I was practicing on the bed and the couches and that sort of thing. And he went and he bought me a drum kit, and I bought a Mapex. For starters, I had a Mapex drum kit and some Istanbul cymbals, and there I had my drum kit, and I was practicing and doing my thing. And then one morning...
Driving your parents nuts?
No, my parents are cool like that. No, lucky. My parents, no. Like if you grew up in my home, like the strange thing is that, so my parents have a massive record collection. Still to this day, they've never gotten rid of one of them. They've kept everything. And so on my mom's side of the record collection, you'd have like Led Zeppelin, Prince, Queen, so one day you'd have that blaring. My dad loved, country, John Denver, the Beatles, all that sort of stuff. So on any given day you could have...
You had anything you wanted.
A lot of noise. So, like most people these days going, Led Zeppelin, I have childhood flashbacks of, of those songs blaring, through our house. So my parents didn't really care for noise. The neighbours, not so much. But hey ho, too bad, in those days, you didn't really have to be that, sensitive about making noise. These days, if you peak, then people get upset.
And then I think you mentioned somewhere that like after like only 4 or 5 months of playing, you got the gig with Richard Loring.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive.
So that's what
what
happened.
Would you say you're naturally talented like that, or did you put in a shitload of work?
I think, to put it mildly, I think that ignorance is bliss. I think that at the time when I was offered, so what I was saying was early morning in January, my dad walked into my bedroom and said, "Here's the phone, Sonnet. There's a guy by the name of Richard Loring on the phone." Now, because I only recently come back from overseas, I had no idea who
he was. Yeah,
who was, absolutely no idea. And I was like, "Richard Loring from where? From who? From what?" And I was like, "Hello." Answered the phone, and he said, "Hi, my name's Richard Loring, and I'd like to, invite you to come and audition for, an upcoming show that I have." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's strange, all right." But, so now I'm thinking, okay, so musical theatre training in Canada, word must have gotten around a bit, whatever. So I said, "Well, what is it?" I didn't even know about the musical theatre scene in South Africa. So, so my question to him was, "So what would you like me to audition as a singer or as a dancer?" He said, "Well, no, actually, we want you to audition as a drummer." And at that point, I thought it was a practical joke. So I hung up the phone. Because no one knew I was taking lessons, except for like one or two people. So, and then I thought, these guys just really taking the piss out of me. So, and then they happened to phone back and they said, "No, we are being serious." And I was like, "But I don't understand. Nobody knows that I'm taking these in." And they said, "No, in fact, your drum teacher, Ian Dixon, has highly recommended you. He said that you haven't been taking lessons for long, but that you're catching on quickly. So we'd like to just invite you for an audition." So I said, "Okay, well, great. Could you get your musical director to send me through the audition pieces?" And then I went to Ian for about a week or two and worked through the pieces, and then went and auditioned, and I got the gig, and which was just pretty strange. And like I was talking before about, if I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be a 2-hour show. I didn't know that we were going to do every possible style, time signature, almost humanly possible in one show that runs for 2 hours every night.
It's hectic,
Performing, 6 to 7 shows a week in 6 days. For at least, and I was going to be doing that for the next 4 years. Yeah. I didn't know. But like I say, ignorance is just bliss. I was just like, okay, yay, let's do this. Cool. Let's do this now. And and I remember the first day that our musical director, who was Mike Pilot, so Mike Pilot, I remember, came to rehearsal the first morning, or one of the mornings, and he said to me, "So, Sonnet, how are your 16s doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're doing fine, hey, but can we maybe have a look at this one? I've got some issues with this other song over here," whatever. And then during a break, I got on my phone. It's when cell phones just came out, so I got on my phone, and I said, Ian, I have a problem." He says, "What?" I said, "What are 16s?" And he was like, and I was just ignorant. And so and he said to me, "Come past the studio on your way home and I'll quickly show you." So we would rehearse from 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and then I would get home around 6:30. I'd have something to eat. I'd take out the charts or go see Ian quickly or whatever, and then I would practice from 7 until practically 2 a.m. I just worked it. There was no out clause. There was no out clause, and there was no way I was going to make a banana out of myself. You know what I mean?
Oh, but well done, yeah.
So that was that, and that just gave me years and years of in the seat training, working.
There's nothing better than that, hey?
Working with a metronome,
yeah.
or with a click track every night, and so that settles a lot of issues.
Yeah, 100%.
So.
Yeah. Let's backtrack now. So drum kit wise, you got that Mapex, and then you're a Tama person now, aren't you?
Not now. So what happened is a few years ago.
And then we'll talk about cymbals.
Okay, well, yes. So a few years ago, I was in a buddies of mine studio, and I just needed a bit of practice space or whatever, and so I was just, sat down behind whatever kid, didn't look at it, whatever, sat down, started practicing, and when I sat down, I was going, man, something about this drum kit is just, I don't know, I hate to say the word resonate, but it responded. There was a different way in the drum kit had been responding. At that time, I was playing a Great Renown, and even though, Great Renown is a phenomenal, a maple renowned, I mean, phenomenal drum kit and everything. But there was just something with this drum kit, and so I couldn't find anything on the thing. So I was like, what drum kit is this? Because whatever this is, I want one of these. And he says, well, this is a Star Classic. And I was like, okay, well, where can I find one of these? And he was like, please don't bother. They are so expensive.
Oh,
like, you'll have to save up forever and a day. And then I looked for about 2 to 3 years. I was looking for a Star Classic, and I wanted a white one. I wanted to bring white drum kits back because I just thought that they were a classic, you know. And then I found one, and then I was very happy to buy it. And then not much later, about 6 months after I bought my Star Classic, I got a wonderful phone call from the guys at Tama South Africa, and then offered me a Tama endorsement. So, and I still get chills just now. I still get the little chills of happiness. And I mean, I've been, it's just something, it just responds to me, and I respond to it. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're a SABIAN endorsee.
As well.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I'm very honoured with the people that have seen me and recognized me and are, you know, have been willing to endorse me and to give me such great gear.
Yeah.
We all know what gear costs these days, and especially good gear.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel spoiled. I feel like a little drum princess, you know, running around with my Tama Star Classic and my SABIAN cymbals. You know.
Let's talk about your SABIAN cymbals, your setup, and why do you like them?
Setup. What would you like to know?
Well, I mean, just what SABIANs, what sizes and why?
So it's a combination of the HHXs and the AAX.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a combination. And the reason that I went for a combination was just for...
which is like the top of the range stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm so happy. So, you know, I decided to go for the two different ranges just because of the difference in the resonance of the sounds. So in other words, you know, I found that the HHXs had maybe like a deeper sound, whereas the AAXs gave me a little bit of a crispiness.
Yeah.
So, you know, I find when I'm playing, you know, if I'm hitting two different, you know, if I'm crashing once or if I'm crashing twice, instead of just having like a, you know, you want that or the other way around. Or if you're crashing 3 times, you want 3 different kind of sounds.
Yeah,
and so
makes
that
sense.
also when you can, you know, when you're playing, you can choose what pitch of sound that you're looking for when you're crashing, because crashing, it to me, isn't just hitting a crash for the sake of crashing. It's kind of got to make musical sense.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and the pitch thereof as well.
You don't play double bass, hey? Do you use?
At home when I'm, you know, just when I'm at home, you know, just
for fun.
Well, I guess for fun is I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. I've been playing single pedal for so long that you know, that sometimes I have a thing for, you know, if I'm going to introduce a double bass drum playing into my gigging scenario, I've got to be super prepared and super confident in it. And I find that sometimes, you know, if I'm not feeling 100% confident, then I might screw it up a little bit. I'll just stick to the single pedal for gigging for now. And if there's something, you know, if a gig comes up that calls for it, then I might.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about teaching.
Yes.
What is your philosophy with teaching, and what makes you a good teacher, and what makes you a good teacher? Would you no, just answer that. Yeah.
All right. I don't know. I think that the moment that you consider yourself a good teacher, I think that you've already lost the match, or you've already lost the game.
Okay.
I think that you get better at teaching as you go along.
Yeah.
And I think the kids teach you so much, you know, in terms of your knowledge, because with every single child that you come across, they learn, their brains function in a very different way. So every child that comes into you first got to figure out the wiring, and then you've got to find a way to translate all this gobbledygook, because to them at that point it's still gobbledygook, you know. So you've got to find a way.
I still think it's gobbledygook, and I'm 47.
I wouldn't have said you're 47 though.
You would have said I was 50.
Kakwen.
Sorry, yes, carry on.
So anyway, so you got to find a way to translate it. So eventually, you got to. I think it really stretches you as a person for every time that you are teaching, even if it's the same concept from student 1 to student 2. The one way that you're teaching it now versus a half hour later might be completely different.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once you think that you've got that down, okay, so now I've figured all the ways out to teach it, in walks the kid, and then you'd go, damn, none of those work. We now got to try and find something else. And I promise you, if you're a good teacher, as my mentor would say, is someone who has the ability to keep you inspired.
Yeah.
To keep you inspired, so that you don't lose interest or get demoralized, because that can happen with any instrument, as you know.
No, and I think that's also a lot of the problems with people teaching themselves and people learning on YouTube. Sometimes that you can't get inspired from an inanimate object. It sometimes definitely needs a real person.
A real person,
and
to whether it's to boost your confidence or just to be there to. Oftentimes I find just, for instance, with double strokes with kids, we teach them the pull and push, push and pull method of starting their double strokes. And for some kids, it's really hard, and it might take a few weeks. And then, by the third week that they're not getting it right, they're just deciding, well, that's it. My drumming career is over. I don't want to do this anything.
Yeah.
Or even just in terms of like, this isn't fun anymore. It's like, now I've got to really practice and whatever.
Yeah.
And to be able to be humble enough and open enough with a child to be able to say to them, well, you know what, you think that you struggled with this, like, do you know how long I struggled with that when I started? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to sometimes be able to say to them, I struggled twice as long to get even to the place where you're at there.
Yeah.
So and I think it's just humility as a teacher. You have to be humble. You cannot get yourself into a place where you are arrogant.
Yeah.
And you can.
Well, same as being a musician in general. Same message. Yeah, very important. Yeah.
And you've got to stay in touch with the children on their age. The one benefit I find from teaching kids is that they keep you in touch with what's current.
Yeah.
In music,
they
have their finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise, we would just be listening to the stuff the stuff that we like. I
don't listen to any new music. I'm not interested.
And you know what? I suppose all of us would. I suppose I would fall into the same trap because I like what I like, but the kids won't allow you that because anything current is what's happened in the last 6 months.
Not the last 6 years, the last 6 months.
And anything that's a year old is already considered.
Well, it's
classic,
it's
classic pop.
Yeah, for a 14-year-old, that's ancient history.
Ancient history. Yeah. So I've now decided to call it classic pop already, because I don't know what else to call it.
That's funny. So tell me quickly about advice for youngsters trying to get into music and drums, maybe in particular, but music in general. Well, what's your advice for them? And I know you're going to say go to proper lessons, but any other advice, not just coming from a teacher, but coming from a professional musician like you?
I think that any 14-year-old, wanting to enter the music industry, I think it would be great if there were the good warning signs, beforehand. But at the same time, I also sometimes think that same ignorance is sometimes bliss, because I think if you can just head on into something a little bit blindly with a lot of passion, sometimes things happen, and if everyone was scared of the music industry, then maybe we wouldn't have bands around like you two. I remember there was this one friend of mine that sent me a meme that said, take your kid to music lessons and he'll never have another cent in his life, or something like this, some nonsense. And whatever, I don't know if you read those.
Yeah, that
memes.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? But if that were the case, then we wouldn't have bands like U2. We wouldn't have bands like Guns N' Roses. I mean, come on, there's a multitude. We cannot even
yeah,
begin listing enough.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be music, and we'd all be sad.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yes, of course, that you do get the guys that have hit it big time and that are world international hits that will hopefully live on forever, you know, in people's minds and people's hearts and in their ears, hopefully. And yet you get those lesser known ones that didn't crack it as big and don't earn as much money. But it doesn't mean that they have made no contribution towards the music industry. Yeah. And I think that it's, you know, sometimes it's a little bit of luck, sometimes a little bit of fairy dust, you know, like in my life, I've seen one thing is like literally my drum career got started by, I would have never, if someone had asked me when I was just about to turn 21, Sonnet, you will be a drummer and this is what you're going to do, I would have laughed at them. Do you know what I mean? And even though there were times in my life where I stepped away from the drum kit and you know, tried to pursue other avenues, it's funny, it's the one thing that always just kept calling back,
Yeah.
and it's never left me hungry. Do you know what I mean? And it's always left me fulfilled. So, you know, sometimes it's destiny. I don't know, you know, it could be, but I think that the things that you learn in music and through an instrument, those lessons are so important for every single man, woman, and child on the earth. And if you take the lessons that you learn during your training years, and you can go and apply them in any other part of your life, I think that there would be success.
Yeah, 100%.
Great success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, music, for example, commitment. Music teaches you commitment, and if you've got commitment in your life, it's a good thing in any other part of your life. Yeah, for example. Yeah.
I mean, I was explaining to a student of mine who now recently he's reached the, you know, as far as what he was going to go in drumming and no further. And you know, my last lesson with him, I felt quite sad, and I said, well, let's review what we've learned over the last 4 years. And some of the points that we managed to get through was, the one thing is that no matter how something looks, the first time that it gets put down in front of you, if you pursue it and you put the time in and regularly, you will be able to achieve playing it at some level or another. You know, and so I was thinking about possibly like the black page. You know, and people are like, oh, it's impossible, or only the best can, whatever. And I'm going, well, you know what? I think any kid can play through the black page as long as they're taking it note for note and they're playing it at whatever tempo, one beat at a time, you know?
Yeah, at 10 beats per minute.
At 10 beats per minute. Hey, it's doable, it's achievable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important for most kids these days to understand that the limitations of life are not set about the difficulty of the task that's in front of you, but at your mindset of 100%. How you're going to overcome it and what your expectation is of what level you wanted to get to.
100%.
Then one of the other important things that I thought was, you know what, for instance, when, you know, we did drum concerts for them, so then they get to some live experience and whatever, and that whole thing of they're getting to the middle of the song, something goes wrong. They lose a stick, they lose their place, they got, you know, invert their counting, something happens, I don't know, sometimes it's just like a
brain freeze.
Complete and utter brain freeze, and they don't know what's the hell, you know, or they make a mistake and then they freeze because they don't know, you know, and we train them that whole thing of like, no matter what mistake you've made now, you get over it as quickly as humanly possible, you forget about it in that moment, and then what you deliver in the end has got to be almost stronger than what you delivered in the beginning. And for me, that life concept of, you know, we all make mistakes, life mistakes, you know, in relationships, in driving, in, you know, on the road or with, you know, people, relationship, we all make mistakes in life. But, you know, to harp on it for, you know, for that long, so much that you're almost wasting so much time that's going past, that it almost ruins the whole thing. And, you know, so that sort of thing, there's so many great life lessons in there.
That's very good advice.
So my advice is play the instrument, go take your lessons and have as much fun as you can possibly have 100%. With it. And then,
that's what it's about at the end of the day, isn't it?
And you know, give it a try. You never know. You don't know what's going to happen at the end. But if you don't try, or if you don't begin, or if you give up somewhere in the middle, you'll never know what would have come out from the end. You know.
Tell us now, how can people get hold of you for lessons or gigs to hire you?
How can
Are you on social media?
I'm on social media. I'm a little bit shy, but I am on social media.
Good.
So I have.
Do you remember your Instagram and Facebook pages?
Yes. So I have So I'm on Facebook under Sonnet La Grange,
Yep.
which is my name. You can come and friend. I'm very friendly.
Okay, we'll put all these links in the description below.
Yes.
Yeah?
So I accept lots of people, lots of friends. I'm very quite accepting. And then, unless people make real nuisances of themselves, I might just like, you know how it goes. You know, female musicians, people really understand some of the things that we do have to endure.
Yeah, I'm sure, I know.
You know, whether it's on social media or whether it's even in the playing field, you know, even just out, you know, at live gigs and stuff. Anyway, but I'm really friendly. And then I'm on Instagram as well at Sonny101, oh, Sonny Be Good 101.
Sonny Be Good.
Sonny Be
101.
Good, yeah.
I like that.
And good with a G-U-D.
Okay, yeah. Any gigs coming up? Any tours? What are you up to?
So, as I mentioned before, I play for Martin Bester.
Yep. Of Kinky Robot.
Of Kinky Robot.
And Jacaranda FM.
And Jacaranda FM. He's
a wonderful man.
He is a man of many talents.
Yeah.
I would like to say, but not I'd like to say, the God's honest truth is that he is one of the most amazing people that I know.
He is.
To work for him has been an eye-opener in terms of, you know, when you're playing in a band and everyone's kind of on the same level, that's one thing. But sometimes when there's a bit of a hierarchy, it's a different story. But when I tell you that, you know, working for Martin, I have never met anyone that treats his musicians with such respect.
I've heard that,
with such humanity.
Yeah.
And he makes a working environment so pleasurable. And he is so professional. And Dinkum, probably one of the best people I know. He gives so much. I mean, for most people who don't know him on the personal side, he genuinely gives a crap about a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know,
Awesome.
Humanitarian, loves animals, saves animals, and
Yeah, he's a good dude, eh?
he's a very, very good person. And I must say, I'm very honoured and blessed to be able to work with him.
Awesome. Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
yes. So we have a few gigs coming up, but they come up on my Facebook.
Okay, so watch your Facebook for gigs.
Watch my Facebook for gigs. As Martin posts them, I share them.
Okay.
And then, so
Okay.
that is that.
Sonnet, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Stu.
And all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you
and
very much.
Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yay,
Awesome.
you too.
Awesome.
Thank
awesome.
you, Stu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. That's all we have time for tonight. We'll see you next time. Hasta la vista, baby.